Hello, welcome to Furious Driving, and this, as I'm sure you're aware, is my Rover 200 VI, a 1996 bubble 200 Rover, which is one of my favourite shapes of Rover 200 as it goes, and the VI is, apart from the BRM, the pinnacle of the breed, and a car which has sadly sat here and done nothing since I got it a couple of weeks ago, because lots of other things have been going on: work, home, the Crown Victoria arrived, the Alfa failed its MOT, welding on the Mercedes while the weather was good. All kinds of things have got in the way of sorting out this car, and all that's stopping this car driving is a head gasket, a common failure on one of these cars, and not that difficult either. Initially I didn't know where to begin because I didn't have any reference materials for that. Since then I've had a couple of things over the internet. I've bought myself a Haynes manual, and Simon, thank you, I've got the Rave CD from MG Rover. Now I'm having a few technical difficulties with PCs because I'm a Mac person, so I'm going to be starting this job with a Haynes manual, and when it gets to the difficult stuff towards the end, I'll be using the Rave CD to get things going. So let's have a look under the bonnet. So this is the 1.8 VVC K-series engine. This is a great little engine and nice, reliable, easy to work on apparently. I've never really taken one of these particularly apart from working on the 1.6 in Quentin, which, you know, even then didn't go too in depth in the thing, just looking at sensors and stuff mostly. This one has got head gasket failure, so in theory all we need to do is whip the head off, put a new one in, whip it on again. Problem is though, it's going to need the head to be skimming probably. It has been skimmed in the past. I've heard from previous owners of this car it has had a skim previously, so I don't know how much meat is left on that bone in order to skim. However, we might look at it and think actually it's absolutely fine, we can get away with it, which would be lovely if it could be that case, but I suspect it won't be. So chances are this job will be delayed by a couple of days, or we take this to a machine shop to get things sorted out, and being as it's now a few days before Christmas, that's not going to help either. Now I have had a care pack arrive from Discount MG Rover Spares. Let's put it on the floor. And this contains a number of items. These include the oil O-rings which go on the end of the camshafts. Apparently these are quite tricky to install, so I might need some help for that. They've sent me some hydraulic lifts, rams for the bonnet, which I'm going to be installing as well along the way. I'm quite looking forward to that. I do like a hydraulic ram on a CD. They sent some sweets. I've eaten most of them already. There's still one left. Most importantly, they have supplied, very useful for working in the garage if I can get it out of the box, a mug. Discount MG Rover Spares mug. That will be sitting prime to place on the engine while I'm working. Let's try and break that. And potentially more important than the mug, this is a BW 750 head gasket. And there's a couple of different versions of this, and I've taken a bit of advice from a couple of people, most notably my friend James, who is on YouTube as The Rubbish Mechanic, and don't let that name fool you, he is anything but rubbish. He reckons he's done, I can't remember how many hundred, did he say 400 K-series head gaskets over the years? It was certainly an insanely big number, and the kind of thing that makes you gasp when you hear it. And he said, always do a BW 750, because you do it once and do it right and never do it again. So that is what we will be installing on this car, and I'm hoping our schedules can coincide and he can be around to help with the actual installation, because that will make my life so much easier. And he's done these little O-ring things as well in the past, so that can live safely in the boot for now. So let's get on with taking some bits of the car off. Well, the problem with this car being in this position here, and the fact I can't really tow it very easily out of here, is it's all a bit tight getting the thing up in the air for going underneath it. Because the first thing you have to do, well in fact maybe the third thing, but it'll be easier to do it right now, is to take or disconnect the exhaust pipe, downpipe from the catalytic converter. Let's make sure I'm not jacking to the floor here. That's never a good thing. Out. All of the out. No, it seems to be all good. Right, this is so narrow. I'm going to be wanting to pull these wheels off, or this wheel off, sorry, just to get in there and make life easier. What's that, 17? No, a 19. Yeah, this has got those horrible wheel covered, or covered over wheel bolts like the coupe had, which I eventually got rid of. These things are the work of the devil, because that's now stuck in there. Oh, I hate these things so much. I think the 25 pounds I spent on a set of stainless steel wheel nuts for the coupe was one of the best money I've ever spent on a car. So just screw it back on ever so slightly, wiggle that thing free and take off by hand. Because underneath this 19mm cover, there's like a 15mm actual, or 16mm lug nut, which you can no longer separate because they've welded themselves to each other over the years. This, by the way, is a full set of Draper impacts, the deep reach impacts, going from 10 up to 27mm, so all the regular useful sizes. And if you're impacting on a regular basis, it's a handy thing to have. A link is in the description below. Oops. Now, while we've got this wheel off, we can take a look around the arch. It's all plastic lines, so you can't really see a lot, but you can see that the suspension looks in pretty decent order, a little bit muddy, and the brakes, they've got a little bit of meat on the bone, enough to see us through for, well, actually it's quite warm, that disc, so that'll see us through for a couple of thousand miles still, but certainly gets going. Then I think we'll be definitely in order for some brake upgrades on this thing. Right, so I've got the car on the jack, on the axle stand. Oops. Got a light on my face, a light under the car so I can see what I'm doing. And it is now a 15 and a, oh, it's not going to get on there, and a 17. I thought I'd get the impact on that, but I can't. Nah. That's a 16mm. I don't seem to have a 16mm spanner, only a 16mm socket. Where's a 15mm spanner gone? Ugh. Right, so trying to get some force on this thing. I've got the extra long breaker bar, which I can't get onto there. Well, as you may be able to see from the fact it's getting dark, I'm about half an hour, 40 minutes, or maybe even a little more, into the project of taking off the downpipe, which is apparently the easy bit of the job. 3 bolts going down to the catalytic converter at the bottom, and 4 bolts, no, hang on, 1, 2, 2, 4, 5 bolts at the top. This should be about 15 minutes work at the absolute outset, but no, because they're all rusted solid, nothing's moving. I've squirted them with lots of penetrating fluid, I've hit them with hammers, I've used the spanners, the sockets, the longest wrenches I can find, nothing's happening, which means it's time to break out my old favourite ultimate tool in the world, the heat extraction tool, which never fails to deliver, thankfully. I kind of had a feeling I'd be going down this route fairly early on when I started struggling to get anything undone. So it's only really a matter of time when I see that much rust on a bolt. This is one of the most useful tools you'll ever see. It is just so incredibly powerful and so useful. If ever this thing breaks, I'm going to have to sell a kidney and get another one because they are just awesome. These things get the bolt you need to undo red hot in a matter of moments without doing damage to anything else. And so you can get a spanner on there, whip it off, and you are done in minutes. Instead of battling stuff for hours. What's that? Yeah, that's noticeably hot now. Right, let's give this a whirl. Oh. Oh. Oh god, this job is suddenly looking like something I'm going to farm out. Oh. Oh. There we go. It's free. Using a Mercedes for leverage, that's now free. Excellent, okay, good. One down, now the next. If I was doing this with an old-fashioned Bernie flame thing, that would be incredibly dangerous. That is now actually red hot on the thing. And now it's time to get that on there. If I can. Oh, it worked. There we go. Hold on to the rope. Mercedes for leverage. There we go, that's off. Moving at last. Okay, good. What's still smoking? What you got to remember when you're doing these things is, having loosened it off and got to the point where the bolt is turning freely and easily, you don't reach up and just try to finish off undoing it with your fingers, because you will get very burnt fingers. Right, one more to do now. Well, that was way more of an adventure than it needed to be and took far longer, until of course I cracked out the, where's it gone? The heat extraction tool. Now there's 5 bolts, no 5 bolts on the front of this that hold the manifold to the head. And I've got a feeling they're going to put up just as, oh no, maybe not, just as much of a fight. Yes, they are. As before, they're 15mm. Oh my God. And they're incredibly tight. Interestingly, I just popped this under bonnet light thing underneath the bonnet of this little Rover, and it just plonked on quite happily. I had it under the bonnet of the Crown Vic the other day, and it only just stretched out wide enough because that bonnet is massive, the hood on that car. So honestly, I thought I would have this head off in like a half hour, as I'm doing now, that's good. In like half hour or two, maybe 2 hours, I'd have the head off, and then tomorrow I could nip it over to the machine shop to get them to check it out for me. I did not anticipate being here battling it, or just battling the exhaust manifold for quite so many hours. Oh, that's not too tight. Bizarre. I wouldn't call it finger tight, but certainly it wasn't a battle to undo. Let's try it with a deep one and see if I can get on with there. Oh, is that 14, not 15? The what? What the what, as they say? No. A totally different size to the others. 15 is too small, too big. 14 is too small. Lovely, just what I like it. Well, I worked out why the deep 15 wouldn't go onto those bolts properly and not fit properly. It's because it was a deep 17. Now with an actual deep 15, I might stand a chance of undoing them. Yeah, astonishingly, not over tight. I thought it'd be easy with a spanner. I was wrong, it's now stuck in the spanner. So now I just need to try and lift. Oh, there you go. That was, oh hang on, I was going to say relatively easy, but it was relatively not easy. That's now lying on the floor. However, it doesn't need to go anywhere else for the time being. And it has got the lambda sensor stuck into it, so I think possibly we just leave that where it is for the time being and just call it quits, because it doesn't need to come up or out or anywhere else. In fact, I don't even know why they said unbolt it from there, because I could quite happily have unbolted it from the 3 down there. Never mind, doesn't matter. It's free now. It's free, it's off the head, it's out the way. It can stay there for now. Excellent. Now, it actually said to drain the radiator before doing that, but since I knew I'd be lying in the puddle of whatever came out the radiator, I thought I'd do the exhaust pipe first. This actually looks like someone's been in here already and loosened this off, because it's already only finger tight holding it in place. Let's get this out. Oh, I think that's missing. Yes, I think so. Oh my God, that's pure water in that. We've had some pretty cold nights this last week or two, so I hope that's not done any damage. Now next up it says to remove the splash shield, which is actually almost completely undone already, which suggests maybe someone's had a look at doing this job previously and then changed their mind. I'm starting to worry. Alright, so that is that removed, splash shield thing. So now we've got access to the crank pulley, which is one of the next things to come off after we set this into top dead centre. Well, guess what? It's tomorrow. It got quite dark and a bit miserable out here last night. So, I say last night, it was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but it's too dark to carry on working. So we're back out in the morning and we're going to carry on removing, first of all, the timing cover, because that is the first thing that comes off. I've gone and left my magnetic tray thing in the boot. That was a mistake. What a mistake out of maker. You may have noticed I've not disconnected the battery yet. I will do that very shortly, but I'm using the central locking to open and close the car of an evening and a morning. So yeah, that's the reason for that. Incidentally, Rover mugs like this are available in the Redbubble store. Links below. Just thought I'd throw that in there. Well, that one is only finger tight. And that one down there is missing, which does again suggest someone's been having some fun taking this car apart already ahead of me. Right, one more thing removed from the car. So now, oh, that looks a bit less shiny than I would like. we need to set this thing to top dead centre, I believe. Now I need to get these two timing marks set up to match up. Where's the other one? Oh, there's one there. It's around the back, it's hidden. So I need to line up the two timing marks to be top dead centre. And do that by using this 22mm bolt on the crank and yeah, turning this clockwise until it's in the right place. Actually, it turns surprisingly, well, not surprisingly easily, relatively easily. It's a bit easy without spark plugs in, actually. Come on. So I can move the ratchet to a certain point, but that's like halfway through a compression stroke, so it keeps bouncing back. Line up, line up. Oh, too far. Too far again. Right, so there we have our two little lines on the camshaft wheels, which are now lined up against each other, and the special cam locking tool, which will then slide in there. We'll need to give it a tiny adjustment on the ratchet again, just to get it in there. We need a third hand to do that. Done. Locked in position for top dead centre. In addition to that being correct, it does also say in the book that there should be a timing mark on the crank pulley as well, which you should line up against the shush dog pressing on the oil pump. But looking left and right sides of it, I'll show you this side because you can't see the side with the camera, I can't see any sign of that. So I'm going to use the old-fashioned method of taking the spark plug out, putting a probe down there and making sure it's at the top of its arc. Honestly, I thought I'd be done in about an hour and a half doing this job. Not into it for a couple of days. I'm always stunned how far the spark plugs are away in a K-series motor. They're a long way down inside that. Ah, well, spark plugs aren't too bad, all things considered. Oh, how the hell am I going to get a probe down there when it needs to be that long plus the top of the cylinder? Let's go find something proby. So now, using this plastic straw, which used to have a flag on it, I can now check how far down each piston is compared to the last. And we should hopefully find that that one is the highest of all. I will quickly say thank you to the viewer subscriber who sent this magnetic spark plug socket over to me in a junk in the trunk a little while ago. That is incredibly useful and far better than the rubbish ones I've been using previously. Now, okay, so that is number one, which I'll hold my fingers there, scientific and all that. That is the same. That is the same. And that is the same. That's not what I expected at all. Okay, I'm a little confused. Because normally when you put a thing into the spark plug hole, you hit the top of the piston. I'm not quite sure what I'm hitting here. Right, I'm going to go with that's probably fine, and we'll sort it out later if it's not. So I've taken the spark plugs out already, which is the next stage. Unfortunately, these are kind of done by length, so we can put them back without worrying about where they normally go, because normally mixing up your spark plugs is a massive issue, but these are all fortunately lengthed perfectly for putting them back in the future. Now we go ahead with undoing these outer head cover bolts, and we've got to do them in the very specific correct order, and this is the tightening sequence, and we do it in the reverse of the tightening sequence. 13 would be the highest, oh no, 14 is the highest number. So 14, already loose, that's not an alarm bell. Let's loosen these off first of all. 13, quite slack. 12, not exactly tight. 11, kind of loose. 10, finger tight. 9, also finger tight. 8, oh dear. 7, 6, yeah. 5, ooh. 4, E. 3, oops, where's 3 gone? Oops, 3. Yeah, that's very loose. 2, not tight. 1, well, that was, no, not really. Okay, let's whack these all off then. So I've got an electric thing because there's lots of unwinding to do. And again, a thank you to a viewer for sending this thing in, because this is extremely useful. Next thing I'm going to do before I do anything else on here is to go and get a bunch of small plastic bags. Yeah, a bunch of small plastic bags to keep all the separate things in, to label them up so I know where it went from when I put it back together. Now there is a specific sequence to undo and do these things up, but as we've now taken the slack off all of them, it doesn't really matter what order you do it in at this point. Now I've got these hose clamp plier things to work on Quentin's fuel system, but I end up not actually needing them, so this will be the first time I've actually used these in anger. Because these little clippy things are absolutely horrible. Oh wow, that's easy. Ha! God, that's a revelation in terms of ease. Oh, they lock in place as well, so you push the lever. Again, check the links in the description below. I've got an Amazon store, an Amazon affiliate store. If you buy stuff on there, it does help fund or support the channel. Okay, that's... So now with all the bolts out, the pipes out, this is the cam cover, the cam head cover, I think it's called, or sorry, cylinder head cover, can lift off. And I was about to say, it says in the book, leave the gasket attached unless you're going to replace it. That is actually really disgusting. Oh my God, there's some cleaning and a half to be done here. What a lot of disgustingment. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go and put this whole lot through some kind of cleaning device system. Yuck, find a cardboard box to put this all in. Oh, that's gonna need all cleaning a lot. Unrelated to that last bit, I'm just going to retrieve this battery now because this belongs in the Rover Tomcat, and I'll stash this back in the Tomcat as soon as possible. Right, so next thing is to take off the auxiliary belts, the power steering belt and the alternator belt. However, I've just been trying to undo the 11mm square bolt on the adjuster of the power steering pump, having slackened off the power steering pump, but that just seems to be winding through the body of the adjuster rather than actually slackening off the thing, so I might just go and get some shears and cut through the power steering belt and then figure that one out later on. Just gonna get some cutty things. Right, so the power steering adjustment, do hard, dilly, hickamy do thar thing, didn't work at all, so goodbye old power steering belt. Once the head's out of the way and while it's off being skimmed, we'll have a look at why that adjuster won't work. Next up, we need to move the alternator, undo the alternator belt, get that one off, then we can get towards the cam belt, timing belt. And that one hopefully won't be quite as jammed up. Right, so just like on Quentin the convertible, there's just a couple of 13 and 14mm bolts, I think it is from memory. We can hopefully, oh, there's that chair, no I can't, it's wedged. Hopefully, he says, without any success whatsoever, undo with ease. It says, with ease! Okay, let's go and get a bigger socket. Right, the plan was to go and put the big breaker bar on there. Unfortunately, it's a bit too deep. The depth of the back of that to the front of the socket is just too close from the front of the alternator to the cross member. So we're going old school. We've got this smaller ratchet wrench back on there. And now here comes the scaffold pole, which seems to be doing the trick. Okay, that is slackened off on one. Let's try and get the other lower ones done as well. If I can find them. Okay, so the alternator is not giving up its secrets, much like Quentin's one before. I've taken both bolts out of the thing, top and bottom, and it's not moving a millimetre. So let's get the wrench-me things in there. See if we can adjust it that way. There we go, bit of movement in there. There we go, that's free. Now, I think we take the alternator out fully in a little while, but for the moment I can stay put, wedged more or less where it is, which is good, we're done. Right, this belt doesn't look bad, but it does look old, so again we'll be replacing that as a matter of course, along with the water pump and the timing belt when it all goes back together. We need to undo this. To achieve that, I'll go and get the Ugga Dugga gun, and we'll use maximum Ugga Duggas whilst we have an assistant holding the car in first gear with a foot on the brake. So Furious Jr. is in the driving seat and he's holding the brakes down while I do the maximum Ugga Duggas. And nothing happens. Now I'm going to need to go and get the big breaker bar again. Nothing can move. Oh God, that's not good. Okay, jump out. It's not working. Well, that was suboptimal. That is absolutely rock solid frozen on there. The ugga dugger isn't touching it, the massive bar isn't touching it. All it seems to be doing is trying to turn the engine, which is not great. So I have to come back to this maybe in the morning. This is not good. Right, well, okay, this has been a slow beginning to this frankly out of my depth project, but at least we're making progress at last on this car, so soon it'll be coming back together. However, I'm not quite sure why that crank bolt will not come undone. I'll put some penetrating fluid on it and leave it overnight and come back to it tomorrow. As it stands right now, it's getting dark. It's actually quite nice temperature wise, but it is very dark to see what's going on, and Furious Junior over there is desperate for his tea. So I'm going to go and feed him, edit this, and then show it to you, and we'll pick up this project again in a couple of days' time.
Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.
And join us again next time with more Rover 200 VI or Crown Victoria or Alfa Romeo or something. Take care, everybody. Many things.